The morning sun hung lazily over the city, its golden light bouncing off the polished windows of tall buildings and the cracked mirrors of street stalls alike. The air buzzed with the rhythm of horns, chatter, and hurried footsteps, everyone chasing their own kind of survival. Amidst the crowd, on the corner of Ridgeway Street, stood an old man dressed in a tattered brown coat. His shoes were worn thin, his beard silver and tangled, and his frail hands clutched a wooden cane polished smooth from years of use. His name was Mr. Nuru, though most who passed him by didn't bother to ask. To them, he was just another beggar taking up space. Across the street, a young woman named Tasha Mwen strutted out of a luxury boutique. She was the kind of woman who commanded attention without trying. Her red dress shimmered in the sun. Her perfume trailed behind her like a whisper of wealth. Tasha had worked her way up from nothing, or so she liked to say. What she didn't like to mention was how quickly she had learned to measure people by their shoes, clothes, and the make of their car. As she stepped toward her Park Silver Mercedes, she noticed Mr. Nuru standing by the lamppost, holding out his hat to a man who ignored him. The sight made her roll her eyes. People like that never change, she muttered to herself, always waiting for handouts instead of doing something with their lives. The old man, sensing her gaze, turned his head slightly and smiled, a slow, gentle smile that seemed to hold both wisdom and sorrow. "Good morning, young lady," he greeted. "You look radiant today. A kind heart would suit you just as beautifully." Tasha stopped, her painted lips curving into a mocking grin. "A kind heart? And who are you to lecture me about kindness? Old man, you should worry about your next meal before you start giving advice." He nodded slowly, unbothered. "You're right," he said softly. "But sometimes the hungry teach the full how to share." Her laughter was sharp and hollow. "Maybe you should try that wisdom on someone else." She turned on her heels and walked away, tossing over her shoulder, "The city isn't for dreamers. It's for doers." As her car roared to life and sped off, Mr. Nuru watched her go, his eyes glinting beneath the wrinkles of time. He whispered to himself, "We'll see, my child. We'll see." That same afternoon, Tasha received an invitation that made her heart race. It was an elegant ivory envelope embossed with gold lettering. "You are cordially invited to the grand opening of Nuru Holdings' newest luxury resort, the Emerald Oasis." The event was said to be hosted by the elusive billionaire philanthropist, Mr. Nuru, whose wealth and generosity had transformed orphanages, schools, and entire communities across Africa. Everyone wanted to meet him, but no one had ever seen his face. Tasha smiled at the mirror as she prepared that evening, her pride swelling. "Finally," she whispered, "the kind of people I belong with." The ballroom of the Emerald Oasis glowed like something out of a dream. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbows across marble floors. An orchestra played soft, intoxicating music. Guests in designer suits and glittering gowns mingled, their laughter rich with champagne. Tasha walked in, radiating confidence, unaware the twist fate was quietly weaving for her. As she made her way through the crowd, her eyes fell on a figure near the buffet table. A tall man in a simple black suit, his posture humble, his face familiar. For a second, she couldn't place him, but when he turned, her breath caught. It was the old man. Except now, his beard was neatly trimmed, his clothes impeccably tailored, and his cane replaced by a sleek silver walking stick. He stood beside a group of executives, laughing easily, surrounded by admiration. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "That can't be." A waiter passing by chuckled softly. "You must be new here. That's Mr. Nuru, the founder of this entire place." Her stomach twisted. The same man she had mocked hours ago was now the billionaire everyone revered. Tasha froze as Mr. Nuru's eyes found hers across the room. His smile was the same, calm, knowing, unbothered. Slowly, he walked toward her, the crowd parting as if guided by invisible hands. "Good evening, Miss Mwen," he said, his tone polite but edged with something deeper. "I see you made it." Her lips trembled. "I didn't know. I didn't realize." He raised a hand, silencing her gently. "That's often the problem," he said. "People rarely see what truly matters. They see clothes, cars, skin, status, but not hearts." Tasha's eyes filled with shame. Around them, Conversation softened as curious eyes turned their way. "I'm sorry," she whispered, barely able to meet his gaze. "I judged you. I shouldn't have." "Do not be sorry for me," he interrupted kindly. "Be sorry for the part of yourself that believed compassion was beneath you." The music paused. His words lingered in the air, heavy but cleansing. He reached into his pocket and took out a small folded note. "Here," he said, handing it to her. "A lesson worth more than gold." Her trembling fingers opened the paper. Inside, in graceful handwriting, were 6 words. "True wealth begins where pride ends." When she looked up again, he was already walking away, surrounded by those who sought his wisdom and kindness. Tasha stood rooted, the note fluttering in her hand like a fragile truth. For the first time, the glittering lights around her seemed dull, the chatter meaningless. She left the party early, her heels clicking against the marble like echoes of regret. As she stepped outside into the cool night air, her reflection in the glass doors caught her attention. Not the expensive dress or perfect hair, but the tired eyes staring back at her. For the first time, she didn't recognize the woman she'd become. The next morning, she returned to Ridgeway Street. The spot where Mr. Nuru once stood was empty, save for a young boy selling handmade bracelets. "Did an old man used to stand here?" she asked softly. The boy smiled. "Yes, ma'am. He always told me to never stop working hard and never stop being kind. He said people will forget your face, but never your kindness." Tasha knelt, bought all the bracelets, and placed them gently in her purse. Her heart felt lighter, as though something long locked had finally broken free. Days turned into weeks. She began volunteering at local shelters, donating to education programs, and spending time listening to people she once ignored. Word spread quickly. Not a glamorous Tasha Mwend, but the woman who helped quietly, humbly, without expecting praise. One day, while visiting an orphanage sponsored by Nuru Holdings, she noticed a portrait hanging on the wall, a painted likeness of Mr. Nuru in his old coat and cane, smiling with that same gentle wisdom. Beneath it were engraved the words, "He who wears humility wears grace." Tasha smiled through tears. "You were right, old man," she whispered. "True, wealth really does begin where pride ends." Outside, children laughed and played beneath the golden sun, the same sun that once watched a proud woman mock a stranger and now saw her reborn in kindness. Tasha knelt, bought all the bracelets, and placed them gently in her purse. Her heart felt lighter, as though something long locked had finally broken free. Days turned into weeks. She began volunteering at local shelters, donating to education programs, and spending time listening to people she once ignored. Word spread quickly. Not a glamorous Tasha Mwend, but the woman who helped quietly, humbly, without expecting praise. One day, while visiting an orphanage sponsored by Nuru Holdings, she noticed a portrait hanging on the wall, a painted likeness of Mr. Nuru in his old coat and cane, smiling with that same gentle wisdom. Beneath it were engraved the words, "He who wears humility wears grace." Tasha smiled through tears. "You were right, old man," she whispered. "True wealth really does begin where pride ends." Outside, children laughed and played beneath the golden sun, the same sun that once watched a proud woman mock a stranger and now saw her reborn in kindness. And though Mr. Nuru was gone, she could almost hear his voice carried on the breeze. "Now you understand, my child. The richest hearts are those that give." The wind rustled her hair softly, and somewhere deep inside her she knew this was not the end, but the beginning of something far greater. That night, Tasha sat by her window, the city lights flickering in the distance like scattered stars. Her phone buzzed with messages, invites to parties, offers of partnerships, glamorous distractions that once made her feel alive. Now they fell hollow, like echoes from a past life she no longer fit into. She silenced the phone and stared out at the night sky, thinking of the man who had changed everything without demanding anything in return. For days, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was still something more, something unfinished about their encounter. Mr. Nuru had left her with wisdom, yes, but also with mystery. Who was he really? Where did he come from? How could a man so powerful choose to walk the streets in rags, testing the hearts of strangers? The questions haunted her, not because of curiosity, but because of what his actions revealed about her own soul. The next morning, she drove to the headquarters of Nuru Holdings, a glass tower that pierced the sky with elegance. Security guards, receptionists, and assistants moved briskly, greeting her with professional smiles. The building hummed with quiet purpose. She approached the front desk and introduced herself. "I'd like to speak with someone about Mr. Nuru," she said softly. The receptionist blinked, then smiled gently. "I'm afraid Mr. Nuru doesn't take personal visitors. But if you'd like to leave a message, I can make sure it reaches his assistant." Tasha hesitated. "No," she said, her voice steady but low. "This isn't business. I just need to understand." The woman looked at her thoughtfully. After a moment, she nodded and handed her a visitor's badge. "Fifth floor. There's someone you should meet. His foundation director, Mr. Cato. He might help you." Tasha thanked her and stepped into the elevator, her heart racing. When the doors opened, she was greeted by a hallway lined with photographs. Children in schools, women running businesses, communities thriving in places where once it was only dust and hunger. Every image was a testament to transformation, and every plaque bore the same simple signature, Nuru. Mr. Cato's office was modest, filled with papers, plans, and the faint scent of coffee. He looked up as she entered, a kind-eyed man in his 50s. "You must be Miss Mwend," he said warmly. "He mentioned you." Tasha froze. "He did?" Cato nodded. "Yes. Said you were a woman who needed to learn what gold couldn't buy." Her throat tightened. "He was right," she whispered. "But now I need to find him. Please, can you tell me where he is?" Cato leaned back in his chair, studying her. "Mr. Nuru doesn't stay in one place for long. He moves quietly, visiting the projects he funds, meeting people in their element. He believes the only way to understand life is to live among those who feel it most deeply." "Then where was he last seen?" she pressed. Cato sighed. "He left for Kajani village 2 weeks ago. Said he wanted to see the new orphanage before it opened. But," he hesitated, "but what?" "He hasn't returned. We've been trying to reach him, but there's been no response." A strange mixture of fear and determination surged in her chest. "Then I'll go there," she said firmly. Cato frowned. "It's a long journey, Miss Mwend. The roads aren't easy. And you—" "I owe him," she interrupted. "If he's out there, I'll find him." He studied her a moment longer, then nodded slowly. "If anyone can, it might be you." He handed her a folded map and a worn photograph of Mr. Nuru in his humble attire. "Be careful. He tests hearts, but he also disappears for reasons only he understands." By dawn the next day, Tasha's car was cutting through the dusty countryside. The city faded behind her, like a dream she'd outgrown. Villages passed by, children waving, women carrying water, men working in the fields. She stopped at a roadside stand for fruit, and as she handed money to the old vendor, she caught sight of a familiar name scratched onto a wooden board nailed to a tree. Nuru Foundation, Kijani Orphanage, 12 kilometers ahead. The road narrowed into winding paths flanked by tall acacia trees. Her tires kicked up clouds of red dust as the sun burned high. When she finally reached the village, it greeted her not with glamour, but with warmth. Laughter echoed through the air. Chickens darted across the road, and the sandalwood smoke lingered. At the center stood a newly painted building. Bright yellow walls, a small garden, and a sign that read, "Kijani Home for Hope, a gift from Nuru Holdings." Tasha stepped out, her shoes sinking slightly into the soft earth. A young woman approached, her smile wide and genuine. "Welcome," she said. "You must be from the city?" "Yes," Tasha replied. "I'm looking for Mr. Nuru. I heard he was here." The woman's expression softened. "He was," she said, "but he left a few days ago. Said he needed to visit someone nearby. An old friend, I think. He didn't say where exactly." Tasha's heart sank. "Do you know anything that could help me find him?" The woman thought for a moment, then nodded. "He left a note for a visitor who might come looking. Maybe it's for you." She led Tasha inside. The orphanage was alive with children's laughter, small hands clutching pencils, bright eyes full of dreams. The woman handed her an envelope. its edges slightly dusty. On the front, written in neat script, were the words, "To the one who sees beyond mirrors." With trembling fingers, Tasha opened it. Inside was a single line, written in the same graceful handwriting she'd seen before. "When the river runs quiet, look for the house that breathes forgiveness." Her mind raced. A river, a house, forgiveness. She turned to the woman. "Is there a river nearby?" "Yes," she said, smiling. "About 2 kilometers north. There's an old wooden house by the bend. No one lives there now, except sometimes travelers rest there overnight." Tasha's pulse quickened. She thanked her, got back into the car, and followed the dirt road north. The river appeared suddenly, glinting like a silver ribbon beneath the sun. Birds swooped low, and the air smelled of wet earth and peace. By the riverbank stood the house, a simple wooden structure with peeling paint, and a small veranda overlooking the water. She parked and approached quietly. The door creaked open as she knocked, and from within came a faint voice. "You didn't need to come this far, child." Her heart leaped. Mr. Nuru? He was sitting by the window, wrapped in a faded shawl, his cane leaning against a chair. His eyes, though tired, held that same ageless calm. "You found me," he said softly. "Not many would bother." Tasha swallowed hard. "You left without saying goodbye." "I had to." He smiled faintly. "Goodbyes are for those who forget. You remembered." She stepped closer, noticing how frail he looked now, the lines deeper on his face. "Why are you here? You could live anywhere in the world, and yet I choose this," he said, gesturing to the river, "because peace lives in places people overlook. I came here to listen, to the wind, the water, and the whispers of my own mistakes." She sank onto the chair beside him, her voice trembling. "I thought I had everything, until you showed me how empty it all was. I don't want to go back to that life." He turned to her, his gaze steady. "Then don't. Build something worth keeping. Not for applause, not for pride, but for others." Tasha nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "Teach me how." He chuckled softly. "The teaching has already begun. You came searching not for wealth, but for meaning. That's the first step." The river outside flowed quietly, carrying secrets and songs alike. In the silence that followed, the world seemed to breathe slower, softer, as if acknowledging that something important had shifted between them, something invisible. But the evening sun melted slowly behind the river, painting the sky in strokes of gold and amber. A soft breeze moved through the tall grass, carrying with it the scent of wet earth and distant rain. Tasha sat beside Mr. Nuru in silence, watching the water flow as if time itself were whispering lessons neither of them could put into words. The quiet between them was not empty. It was sacred, filled with the weight of realization and the beauty of unspoken truth. Mr. Nuru's frail hands rested on his cane, his eyes half closed. "You see," he said after a long pause, "life has a strange way of revealing its riches. The more you chase what glitters, the less you see what shines. But when you slow down, when you start listening, everything begins to speak." Tasha looked at him, her heart heavy with admiration and guilt. "I thought I understood what success meant," she said quietly. "Now I see it was just noise, endless noise drowning out the voice of my own soul." He smiled faintly. "The world teaches you to run, but wisdom teaches you to walk. You can build palaces of gold, but if your heart is empty, you'll still live in poverty." For a while neither spoke. The river's rhythm became a gentle heartbeat to their silence. Then Tasha noticed a slight tremor in his hands, the slow, careful breaths he took. A worry stirred within her. "You're not well," she said softly. "You should be in a hospital, not out here alone." He chuckled lightly. "My dear, I've lived my life in the company of noise and luxury. Out there," he gestured faintly toward the horizon, "they watched my wealth, but never saw my weariness. Here, I am just a man. Here, I can finally breathe." Tasha felt tears prick her eyes. "You gave so much to the world. You built schools, hospitals, homes. You changed lives. But did anyone ever stop to ask what you needed?" He looked at her with warmth and sadness. "I needed someone who didn't see the billionaire, but the man, And today I found her. Her throat tightened. The gravity of his words sank into her like a stone sinking into still water, rippling outward, reaching places she didn't know existed within her. As the evening deepened, the air grew cooler. Mr. Nuru rose slowly, his movements deliberate. "Come," he said, "walk with me." They moved along the riverbank, the orange sky fading to violet. Fireflies began to appear, their tiny lights flickering like pieces of fallen stars. He spoke again, his voice softer now. "Tasha, the reason I wore rags that day wasn't to test others. It was to remind myself. Wealth can blind a man to his own fragility. Sometimes, to see clearly, you must first strip away everything that hides you." She nodded, her steps in rhythm with his. "You wanted to know who would treat you with kindness when you had nothing." "Yes," he said, "and you failed that test. But that failure was your beginning, not your end." The honesty cut deep, yet there was no bitterness in his tone, only grace. She stopped walking and turned toward him. "I want to make it right. Not with words, but with what I do next. Tell me how." He smiled. "You already know. You've begun to give without expecting. You've started listening instead of judging. That's how change begins, not with money, but with the heart's decision to see differently." The first stars began to bloom in the twilight. The river shimmered like liquid glass beneath them. Mr. Nuru's cane tapped softly against the earth as they walked back to the wooden house. That night, as he rested, Tasha sat by the dim lantern light, unable to sleep. She wrote in her notebook, her thoughts, her regrets, her new dreams. She wrote about the girl she had been, blinded by vanity, and the woman she was becoming, shaped by humility. She wrote, until dawn kissed the sky, and the first light of morning fell across Mr. Nuru's peaceful face. When he awoke, he found her already dressed, ready to leave. "You're going?" he asked quietly. She nodded, though her eyes glistened. "You taught me enough to know that staying would be selfish. There's work waiting, people who need help, a world that needs the same kindness you showed me." He smiled proud. "Then go, child. Go and build what I could only begin." She hesitated, then knelt before him and took his hands gently. "I'll never forget you." He chuckled softly. "You don't have to remember me. Just live what I taught you. That's how you'll keep me alive." When she turned to leave, the wind stirred to the trees, carrying the faint scent of the river. She looked back once more and saw him standing in the doorway, framed by light. His figure seemed both fragile and eternal, as if time itself bowed in respect. The journey back to the city felt different. The road she once rushed down now unfolded like paths of reflection. Every face she passed, every vendor, every tired mother carrying her child, she saw them all differently now, not as strangers, but as stories. Weeks later, Tasha launched a new initiative, the Hearts of Grace Foundation. It wasn't branded with luxury, nor promoted with glamorous parties. It started quietly, with simple goals: clean water, education, shelter, and opportunity for those forgotten by society's glittering towers. She funded the first project herself, selling off her expensive jewelry and car. The media called it a shocking transformation. But to Tasha, it was not transformation, it was liberation. The people she once ignored now became her partners. The streets she once avoided became her classrooms. And every time she handed food to a hungry child or gave a woman a chance to work, she could feel a whisper in the back of her mind, Mr. Nuru's voice, calm and proud. Months passed. One morning, while reviewing a new proposal for a school project, she received a sealed letter. It bore no name, only the faint symbol of sun rising over water, the emblem of Nuru Holdings. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a short message, written in his familiar, graceful hand. "You understood. The river runs through you now. Keep flowing." Beneath the note was a deed to a large piece of land, a gift, the same land by the river where they last met. She couldn't hold back the tears that came. That river, where her pride had finally washed away, would now become the site of her foundation's next orphanage. She traveled there soon after. The wooden house still stood, though quieter now. Locals said the old man had left one morning before sunrise, walking east toward the mountains. No one had seen him since. Some said he wanted to find peace. Others believed he had become part of the land he loved so much. Tasha stood by the riverbank, holding his note tightly. The water shimmered under the sun, endless and patient. She whispered into the wind, "Thank you for finding me when I was lost." The current seemed to answer, the ripples dancing in soft rhythm against the shore. For a long while, she stood there, the world around her still and golden. Then she turned to face her team, who waited with blueprints and bright hopes. "We'll build it here," she said firmly, "and we'll name it after him." The Nuru River home of hope rose from the soil within months, a sanctuary for children who had known nothing but struggle. Its walls were painted in soft hues of yellow and blue, the same colors of dawn and water. Every corner echoed laughter, music, and life. And at the entrance, carved in stone, were the same 6 words that once changed her forever. True wealth begins where pride ends. As the years passed, Tasha's name became synonymous not with luxury, but with compassion. Her story traveled far and wide, told by villagers and city dwellers alike. Yet, when people asked her what inspired her, she would only smile and say, "A man who wore wisdom like a crown and kindness like a second skin." And sometimes, when she walked alone by the river at dusk, she would feel it again, that invisible presence beside her. The air would stir, the water would shimmer, and she would almost hear his voice, soft as a sigh. "Keep walking, child. There's still light to give." Her lips would curve into a quiet smile, her eyes glistening in the fading light. The woman who once mocked an old beggar had become a guardian of his legacy, a legacy not built of money or marble, but hearts transformed, lives lifted, and hope reborn. And though the river flowed endlessly on, she knew, somewhere, somehow, he was watching, content that his lesson had found its home.